Elijah's despair and encounter with God. After the miraculous victory on Mount Carmel, where fire from heaven demonstrated Yahweh's supremacy and the prophets of Baal were executed, Elijah's triumph was short-lived. News of these events reached Queen Jezebel, a staunch devotee of Baal, who was furious at the humiliation and destruction of her prophets. In her anger, she sent a chilling message to Elijah, vowing to kill him within 24 hours. Despite his recent victory, Elijah, overcome with fear, fled for his life. Traveling deep into the wilderness, Elijah eventually came to a solitary juniper tree. Exhausted and emotionally drained, he sat beneath the tree and prayed to God, asking to die. "I have had enough, Lord," he lamented. "Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." Elijah's words revealed the depth of his despair. He felt defeated, isolated, and utterly overwhelmed by the burden of his prophetic mission. After pouring out his anguish to God, Elijah fell asleep under the tree. God, in his compassion, provided for Elijah's needs during this time of despair. An angel touched him and instructed him to eat. When Elijah awoke, he found freshly baked bread and a jar of water beside him. After eating and drinking, Elijah lay down again. The angel returned a second time, urging him to eat, saying, "The journey is too much for you." Strengthened by this divine provision, Elijah embarked on a 40-day journey to Mount Horeb, the mountain of God. Upon arriving at Mount Horeb, Elijah found a cave and spent the night there. Alone on the mountain, he poured out his frustrations to God. He expressed his feelings of loneliness and failure, saying, "I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too." Elijah's words reflected not only his fear, but also his sense of isolation and the overwhelming weight of standing alone against widespread idolatry. God responded to Elijah's despair with a powerful and deeply personal encounter. He instructed Elijah to stand on the mountain in his presence, promising to pass by. As Elijah waited, he witnessed a series of dramatic natural events. A powerful wind tore through the mountains, shattering rocks. An earthquake shook the ground beneath him, and a blazing fire swept across the landscape. Yet, God was not in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire. After these mighty displays, Elijah heard a gentle whisper, a still, small voice. It was in this quiet, intimate moment that Elijah truly encountered God. The gentle whisper reassured him of God's presence and reminded him that God's power was not always displayed in dramatic or spectacular ways. Sometimes, God's work is subtle, quiet, and deeply personal. The encounter reinvigorated Elijah, giving him clarity and purpose. God reassured him that he was not alone, revealing that there were still 7,000 in Israel who had not bowed to Baal or kissed him in worship. This revelation was a reminder that, even when Elijah felt isolated, God was preserving a faithful remnant. God also renewed Elijah's mission, instructing him to return and continue his prophetic work. He was to anoint Hazael as king over Aram, Jehu as king over Israel, and Elisha as his prophetic successor. These instructions gave Elijah a renewed sense of direction and the assurance that God's plans were still unfolding, even in the midst of opposition. Elijah's experience on Mount Horeb was a turning point in his ministry. It taught him that God's presence is not always revealed in dramatic displays of power, but often in quiet moments of intimacy